Shall we start? Yes? Yes, good. So thanks for coming during your lunch. It's really great also for all the colleagues that are online. For those that they don't know me, I'm Stelios Grafakos. I'm Deputy Director at the Center for Thought Leadership. And I'm here with my colleague,
Catalina Rodriguez, that I work for the Spark project in Colombia. The Spark is in 4 countries, Thailand, Zambia, Pakistan, and also Colombia.
And today we're going to present a study that was conducted, and this is an upcoming policy brief, a knowledge product on assessing different scenarios for Colombia's participation in Article 6. Actually, the two of us shouldn't be sitting here. It should be other colleagues that are now in Colombia. It should be Elena Castellano and Catherine Ovalle, for instance, and all the colleagues in Colombia. But we had the opportunity also to support this project. And I would like to highlight here from the very beginning that this is a collaborative work. It's led by the Spark project team and supported for the modeling exercise from the Green Economy Analysis group of the Center of Thought Leadership. So it's one GGGI collaboration. So let's jump to the topic.
We have this knowledge product that is the policy brief of assessing Colombia's participation in Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. It is analysis in support to the National Planning Department and the Ministry of Environment as like the main counterparts of the Spark project. And yeah. And I don't know if you know something about Article 6, or it is a new topic for you, but Article 6 basically provides for voluntary cooperation between the parties in the Paris Agreement. It has like 3 mechanisms. The first one is bilateral cooperation. The second is UNFCCC centralized credit mechanism, and the other is non-market approach. Something that I want to say here is like these 2 are carbon market mechanisms. And the objective of the cooperation, it is like to have a cost-effective means to achieve the NDC objectives, also to increase the global ambition, and to promote sustainable development and environmental integrity.
So just to give you a little bit of the rationale of the study and focus, by providing you a little bit the finance flows of carbon finance projects based on Article 6. So the idea, as you see here, is to start with the mitigation project that is implemented. And this contributes to emission reductions, the mitigation outcomes, which are purchased by sovereign or corporate buyers. And this, as an outcome, these outcomes called ITMOs, right, do not count for the country's NDC that the project was generated, but it counts for the NDC of the buyer, of the country of the buyer. So, and based on that, this transaction, the selling and buying countries perform these corresponding adjustments on their inventories, as it's called. Now, on the financial flows here, we have the additional revenue stream for the project implementer based on carbon finance, which often supports the financing viability gap of the project. And based on that, makes the project viable. So in actually, investment is or public project implementers through carbon finance, which is the main idea of Article 6 carbon finance, right? Now, what is interesting here is that the government could capture partially through fees or taxes on the transaction and receive this as funding that goes to a public pot, can receive a share of the proceeds, which can be used for various purposes. For instance, to establish a government fund. And based on that, to reinvest, recycle those share of proceeds in further mitigation activities, which could contribute further to NDC ambition, right, or to NDC targets achievement, and of course deliver various co-benefits. So the focus of this exercise, the study that was led by the government of Colombia through SPARK project, is on this flow of funds that the government captures and reinvests, right? So the objectives of this analytical work, which was to assess different scenarios for Colombia's participation in Article 6, is to quantify Article 6 impacts with regard to GDP, jobs, and energy costs through the modeling exercise, assess how ITMO revenues could support NDC implementation based on the mechanisms we just showed before, and also model resource distribution for taxes and fees from the ITMO revenues. Generating data through this exercise to inform Colombia's Article 6 participation strategy. This is very important, and we'll see further how this exercise has really informed Colombia's Article 6 strategy, but also the NDC. Furthermore, another objective, very important, is to enhance institutional and technical capacity on Article 6 readiness, which is also the objective of SPARK project, and demonstrate, very importantly, the multiplier effect of Article 6, which comes on the second flow that we showed in the previous graph, right? Exploring different scenarios of doing that, of reinvesting these additional funds by using the green economy model, which
the green economy model, it was not new for Colombia. We used it like in the 2020 to support the E2050 strategy. But in the framework of SPARK, we use it like many tools, analytical tools, to inform like the government to take some decisions. So in that sense, we decided to use like the GEM model with the government and to see the Colombian participation in the Article 6 markets. So yeah, this is a little bit of background of the GEM model.
So it's very important that already the Colombian government was using the GEM for developing decarbonization strategy to 2050. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, if you go to the next slide, GGGI is utilizing already for some years the green economy model. You may have seen this slide from Shivane's presentation yesterday. GGGI is using the green economy model for strategic foresight and supporting GGGI's member and partner countries to develop their long-term low emission development strategies, normally 2050, or support the enhancement of nationally determined contributions or long-term green economic strategies, fossil fuel subsidy removal study, or national adaptation plans. So we build on existing capacity of GGI, while this is a model that has been customized for Colombia, as we saw before. And very briefly, what is the green economy model? So it's a system dynamics model that aims to integrate different dimensions of sustainability, environmental, social, and economic. And in essence, is a simulation tool that simulates different policies and investments in different sectors and looks on different development dimensions across time and space. In essence, generates what-if scenarios to support formulation of policies and their evaluation. Often it's being used to set greenhouse gas emission targets in NDCs, in long-term emission development strategies, green growth strategies, so on and so forth. And so far, it has been tailored in more than 50 countries, 10 of those applications by GGI to inform national planning, climate strategies, and investment decisions. And I have to say, this is an ongoing modeling approach that is keep on expanding, right? It has evolved through the years. And now this current version that also we tested in Ethiopia, supporting Delta LEDs, incorporates both mitigation and adaptation components, right? So we're talking about an integrated modeling approach. Just to give you a bit of background. So now on the methodology of our analysis. So first we started by identifying which measures will be modeled. Those were screened and aligned with the SPARC recommendations and validated or selected by the Colombian government. Then we defined the type of additionality that each measure could bring. We modeled the actual NDC ambition of each of these measures, and then we model in addition with Article 6 participation. And in the end, we saw, we ran scenarios on recycling these revenues and reinvesting them in different mitigation measures. So yeah, again, in essence, participation in Article 6 doesn't need to wait until mitigation targets are met. And this was demonstrated by this study. And actually, this study changed the thinking of the government, right? The colleagues from Colombia could correct me here, because they thought we need to achieve first an NDC and then we can discuss about Article 6, right? But this study showing that already Article 6, by generating additional income, could be reinvested and contribute to achieving the NDC was a game changer, right? So what we described before, the percentage of emission reductions and the transaction through the ITMOS generation and sale, that contribute emission reductions that, of course, stay in the country, but it counts for the NDC of the buyer, as we said. However, we have locally generated co-benefits, which was also one of the objectives of the study, to generate and assess and measure the local co-benefits that could be generated in the country.
And I want to tell you a little bit like the capacity building process through the analysis, because it was not only to do the analysis by like the GGI team and some consultants, but it has like capacity building sessions with the Ministry of Environment and also the National Planning Department, in which since the beginning it was like telling them what was like the GEM model, the definitions, which like variables were there, what are the outcomes, all that was explained there. And actually it was really good because I think during the analysis, it was like a common understanding built during the process. And the other thing is like that engaged also the government to use the results, because they knew how the model works like behind scenes and the purpose of it, the assumptions, all that. So they like were eager to use it. And everything, as Estelle said, it was validated with them. So the assumptions, the scenarios, and also the results. So.
Yes, I think this is very important. That was not just an exercise that some analysts conducted. That was really with the government and making sure that the government had hands-on the model, understanding the assumptions, the scenario, so on and so forth, right? If we go to the next slide, just to highlight that for us, doing the modeling also in other countries, this is really important. And this is what differentiates us maybe from other organizations. We don't flying out consultants, deliver the work and go, right? So we want to make sure we enhance capacity on the ground that potentially governments, experts, stakeholders could utilize the model for further analytical work to update their NDC, update their LT-LEDs, Article 6 strategy, so on and so forth, right? So it's very important part of the whole process. We did this in Malaysia on a project that was led by Shivanes, again, delivering capacity building on the green economy model for the government experts. And we're also planning to do the same at the Pakistan LT-LED. So we have a specific component on capacity building, making sure that the model is customized and it's used by government stakeholders. Now, on the scenarios that were validated with inputs from the government, we're not going to bombard you with the information here, just to present the main, let's say, variables behind the scenarios. We looked on 7 scenarios, looking on different ITMO prices. This is quite uncertain, so we wanted to explore different scenarios around the ITMO prices. The transaction costs, this is also quite uncertain, so we explored different transaction costs here. The ITMO fee, as we discussed, that the government could capture. Also, we looked on different levels of fees, and we looked also on different share of redistributing these fees, right, in different sectors, in different mitigation measures. And here you can see the results, that basically the results focus looking on the level of emission reductions that this scenario achieves, the level of GDP impact, the employment impact, and savings in energy expenditure. Just as an example, scenario 3, which is the middle point with the medium decreasing ITMO price, kind of medium ITMO fee and high transaction costs, dividing in this way, basically mostly energy and AFOLU interventions, investments, reinvestments, and we had, based on the results, moderate emission reductions, high GDP impact, medium employment impact, and high savings in energy expenditure. And if we go to the next slide, you can have the chance, of course, to dive into the results when you see the policy brief. So this is, again, a nutshell of the results. You see here the exact redistribution of the accumulated funds of scenario 3, and here the different projects, right? So to conclude with the policy implications and recommendations, so as mentioned before, this strategic timing that we made the case to Colombia, and this way the government understood to be an early entry gives an advantage, a comparative advantage compared to other countries, that they're ready to engage with Article 6 carbon trading and therefore generate revenues not only for the Article 6 projects, but also through the mechanism we discussed to reinvest those in even for NDC targets. We saw the multiplier effect, so the additional co-benefits that will be generated in the country, GDP, employment, energy expenditure reduction, macroeconomic gains, and the positive externalities by reinvesting the revenues. And again, the idea here is that Article 6 carbon trading could be used for domestic private engagement, utilizing private investments, for instance, in renewable energy, sustainable land use projects, again, depending on on those that deliver most co-benefits or outcomes or are prioritized by the government. And similarly, some recommendations, targeted reinvestment in additional mitigation activities is recommended by collected revenues from ITMO transactions that the government could capture and reinvest to NDC-aligned actions. That was an eye-opener for the government. Establishing a transparent Article 6 fund where this capturing through fees, this value could be reinvested following transparency accountability rules and aligning those with climate and development goals of the country. And lastly, again, to utilize Article 6 to further mobilize private capital through the use of ITMO purchase agreements that could unlock additional private finance. And with that,
so some next steps and publications are coming. First, to mention again that the results of this exercise were so valuable to the preparation of Article 6 in Colombia, since the government is like taking them as part of some decisions that we have been seeing reflected in the NDC 3.0. We don't have now like the full version of the NDC, but we have like a declarative version of it. And there's the government decided to highlight some things there about Article 6. And we know that part of that it is because of all this input that we have given to them. And the policy brief will be like in the Spark website in December 2025. And there is also other publication that mentioned this work, that is the integrated economic and financial issues into national climate plans and strategies, that it is planned to be launched in the COP 13 this year in November. And we want to close like this session with acknowledgements of all the people that have been behind this work. As we mentioned before, like there is part of the Colombian Spark team, also the Center of Thought Leadership, and the Carbon Finance Department with the Spark.
And this is, we think, a great demonstration of how one GGGI model works. And we really advocate for that, and that leads to a knowledge product. And we hope that we will continue the collaboration with the Spark team and the Carbon Finance Department. I shouldn't make this wrong. On replicating this in other countries and exploring how we can utilize these capacities elsewhere. Thank you so much. Questions, comments, reflections, or any additions from other colleagues that were part of this, either in the room or online? Elena, are you online?
Hi, yes, I'm around. Thanks so much, Kata and Stelios, for presenting this. Don't have anything specific to add, but happy to answer questions or be in touch separately if anyone's doing something similar or wants to learn more about the model or Article 6.
Anything else? Yes.
I think there's a question.
Yes, Rastra.
Yes. Hey. Hey, Stelios. Hi, everyone. My name is Rastra. I am based in Lao PDR. It's actually funny. I work on carbon markets, but I had to work on NDC and gem modeling this year, so it's very new to me. But it's something I've been working on with Chevnis and Jen Hao and Stelios. So I'm just a bit curious. I think two questions from my end. One is in terms of the quantitative impacts, right? So like a lot of the modeling results, like how open is the government in actually putting some quantifiable caps or targets on the guidelines or the strategy? Also, like, is it going to inform your positive and negative list for Colombia? And I think the second question is more for maybe for Shevnis and Stelios. Can we do something similar for Laos, because we've done the GEM modeling work for the energy industry sector, and we're also preparing the NDC, right? So what would we have to do to, like provide more informed Article 6 recommendations? Because I think, yeah, I'm asking more from an energy sector point of view, but also I think really interested in AFLU, because the government's very keen on exporting all credits they can find on the AFLU side, but I think that has a major risk for overselling the NDC. So yeah, 2 questions from me. Thanks.
Thank you. I guess Elena could take the first one. Is that okay? And then we could take the second one.
Thanks. Yeah, I can give it a try. It's a difficult question. I think so. The objective of the analysis was not to calculate which caps would make sense. It was about kind of looking at this trade-off between participating in Article 6 means giving away these reductions, but at the same time, what type of benefits can it bring, and how can we reinvest those resources in a strategic way in sectors that are underfunded, or sectors that will bring like most multiplier effect in terms of like economics, or measures that are more cost efficient in terms of like cost of the measure and abatement that you get out of it. So it was like all about figuring out that strategy and that trade-off between Article 6 participation and co-benefits, and also unlocking some of the measures that are more difficult to implement. So kind of also thinking about for each measure what Article 6 strategy makes sense. So for example, when we're thinking about electric vehicles, does it make sense to implement Article 6 in the beginning, use that to unlock some of the infrastructure that's needed, and then reach the NDC target a bit later? But if the alternative is not reaching the NDC target, then maybe that's like a good way forward. So kind of thinking for each measure what type of Article 6 participation strategy makes sense. And also on the other hand, like what sectors are most cost efficient and create most benefits on the territory in terms of reinvesting government revenues. That's kind of more the angle that we were looking at. Not sure how that's going to be inform like specific limits on Article 6 participation. I think that's like the next step to that we hopefully can support the government with. Yeah, I don't know if that helps or if that answers the question.
Thank you, Elena. For the second question, Shivanas, do you want to provide a reflection? Just to give a bit of background, Shivanas and Chen Hao have been supporting Rastra and the government of Laos for enhancing the NDC in the energy sector, doing some modeling work using, again, the green economy model. So that's why very good question from Rastra, if we can replicate this. So I leave to Shivanas to provide some reflections, and I may come in also.
Yeah, so in principle, yes, it's possible. And I think that the condition is same in the sense that GEM was already existing in Colombia. And we actually have used GEM twice in Lao PDR, although we haven't used it for the national planning at the sectoral level. But like in NDC, although it's a sectoral NDC for the energy sector, but the full component of GEM is still there. So at the macroeconomy level, the GDP and the population and the job creation, etc., is already calibrated. So in that sense, it would be actually easier to replicate this work in Laos. And yeah, I think if we were to explore the redistribution to the Afolu sector is also possible, Rastra. I mean, we just have to coordinate a bit with JICA because they are doing the Afolu. But in principle, it's possible if it's really about redistribution of the revenues.
So clear answer, yes, it's possible, and I think having this experience and having already do the customization for Lao and the work on the NDC and the energy sector, it's possible. Another option that could be possible we discussed is Pakistan through the LP-LEDs, because Spark Spark project is also there. So this could be another potential replication case. So let's keep Lao and Pakistan as potential replication cases that we can explore further. Rastra, over to you. Happy to engage further on this.
Yeah, thanks. No, that's really good, and I'll follow up with you guys separately. I think the context for Article 6 here is the government wants to export everything, right? So I think like some of the insights on the trade-offs of, well, exporting credits from AFLU or exporting credits from large hydro doesn't make sense to the government or something like that. I think, yeah, that type of analysis could really help us create some sort of negative list around, okay, like, look, like I think for these things it makes sense, but for these things we should just try to sort of put some guardrails so we're not exporting everything or allowing for that. Yeah, thanks so much.
I see Elena, and I see also Catherine, if you want to come in after Elena's intervention.
Yeah, thanks. Just to mention on making positive lists and negative lists, this is only one of the different branches that we're developing to support an Article 6 strategy in Colombia. So Caterina has been leading on a different study where we had like much more in-depth like mitigation measure by mitigation measure of all the NDC measures that Colombia has, which ones make the most sense to be in a positive list for Article 6. And then in parallel, we're also developing another study where we're building marginal abatement cost curves for the different mitigation measures of the NDC. So kind of like each study has a different aspect to inform Article 6 strategy, and happy to talk more about that since you're looking at similar things, so we can be in touch.
Thank you, Catherine. Would you like to come in and see you?
Yes, just to mention that what we are proposing here is several scenarios of what could happen if we do something instead of others. So the ministry will have more information to make some decisions about the strategy and the participation for Article 6. And the idea is that we will use all the information from the different consultancies that we are developing to give the ministry an input of a proposal for a business plan to participate in Article 6. So that's part of what we are hoping the ministry will use all this information to consolidate and put all in the regulation, and also to give some more clarity for the sectors. But at least with this consultancy, we were updating some information. So the ministry will have more data with new information. We were also trying to validate with different sectors because not all the information that the model was required was completely available. So we had in some cases, some assumptions, but we tried also to validate with different actors to be sure that this information had sense. Also, we, as Elena mentioned and Kata also mentioned, we did several capacity building cases with the ministry and also the DMP. So they will have more information, and we also buy some license for them. So they will use the model, and that's part of what we are looking also, that they can keep using this model to answer these questions that came in the future, because this is something that is still in developing in the country. So the idea was not to give a closed answer, was more to open the conversation with the ministry, and I think this was very useful, because the ministry in some cases has a like a close vision of something, and this exercise give us a little bit more perspective and see more other possibilities of how we can participate in Article 6, and how to ensure also that the participation in Article 6 would open the possibility to increase the ambition, but also to actually commit the target that we have in our NDC. Just to mention this. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Anything else?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes.
So, very specific and very quick. So, what is the input variable for the carbon side? Carbon price or?
Yeah, there are different ones. If you go back. To the, yeah. You see the ITMO price, the transaction costs, and the ITMO fee. Yeah, here. And I think there was a question on, so you could just come in and ask your question, if that's okay. I think from Christine, no? Or
yeah, so basically the point I was trying to understand is, if I've understood correctly, we're basically, so the ITMO fee is basically going to be like a tax on the carbon reductions that we're getting. So what, those that are selling the carbon reductions, that's what we're exporting, that's what the country's exporting. So something that's good, something that we're wanting to encourage. So if I've understood correctly, then we're going to be taxing that. And generally, you don't want to tax things that you want to encourage. You want to tax bad things. So energy. So if you were carbon, then you would want to be taxing that. So I'm just concerned that if we're taxing a good thing, you're going to reduce the supply of that thing. So just trying to understand, what's the overall, unless we're actually just thinking that the government is then, by using the revenue from that tax, are going to be better. That will override the disincentive impacts of doing that. Then, and I think, if the model's not taking into account that, then I think, it's a bit, that could be a bit concerning, because then what it seems like what we're doing is we're just modeling to see what are the impacts of the government spending in the country, without actually considering where and the impacts of the source of that revenue. So I think that's my question, or trying to understand.
thank you, Christine. Elena? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think it comes back to that trade-off of the reductions that you're exporting don't count towards your mitigation ambition as a country, your NDC targets. So this is a way to keep the balance and keep some of the benefits from those transactions in the country. So indeed, I think part of the recommendation that's really important is the establishment of a fund that works for that. So you tax that money, but you use it specifically to support implementation of your own NDC targets. So it's kind of like it has a purpose. So you're not taxing to disincentivize ITMO transitions, but you're taxing to keep some of the benefits of those mitigation activities in the country and support the country's NDC targets. At the same time, there is countries need to be careful about the risk of overselling. That's what our other colleague was mentioning, where the country wants to sell everything. So there's also it's also a strategy to mitigate the risks of overselling your ITMOs and not meeting your country's NDC targets.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Christine. Other comments, questions? Online? No? If not, then yes. Thank you so much for those that you stayed during your lunch and those online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
I should have not brought it.